In today's video, I'm going to talk about the biggest mistakes that health coaches make when it comes to making dietary recommendations for their clients so that you can avoid these mistakes when you're working with your own clients. So I have over a decade of experience working with health coaches, helping them start their businesses and get good results with their health coaching clients. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Kristen Harchis. I am a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner turned health coach turned business coach. So I have a lot of past experience working with clients around dietary recommendations to work on certain health issues. So through that experience, I've learned a lot about what works when I'm working with people and what doesn't work, what really gets people to follow through and get those really great results that we want for our clients. Of course, we can't force our clients to do anything. So I always say it's a partnership and they have to be open and willing to make the changes. And I think something that's really helpful to understand from the beginning is that all of our clients are starting from a different place. And this is truly one of the most important things, like really understanding where they are at, your clients, as far as their knowledge around nutrition and what to eat. And I would say this is really like the biggest mistake is not diving deep enough into this so that you understand where your client is at. Okay, what do they already know about nutrition, if anything? And one of the top things I always recommend doing is having your clients keep a food log. Typically for like 3 days is a good amount of time to get an idea of what they're eating. You may want to make sure that you're covering like a typical weekday and a weekend day. So I mean, having them do a whole week may be better, but at least 3 days of just what they're eating, keeping track of everything, because most people aren't really aware of everything that they're eating if they're not keeping track. So you could have them write it down in their notes app. You could have them print something out and fill it out. MyFitnessPal can work really well for just like keeping track of what they're eating, but it's really good to have your clients bring this to you so that you can go through it together and just really get a good idea of where they're starting from. Because this is all different too. Like personally, when I worked with people and doing functional medicine, most of the people I worked with already had a lot of nutrition knowledge. They're already eating quite well. And we were really looking to get into like the details and kind of get maybe even a little bit more specific or figure out like what food sensitivities they had and stuff like that. Whereas other people, depending on who your ideal client is, this is the other thing, like knowing who your ideal client is going to make a difference as far as where that person is at. So you may work with people who are at the very beginning of their health journey. Maybe they don't know a lot about nutrition. Maybe they're eating a lot of fast food or a lot of processed food, or maybe you're working with people who already know more and are already eating pretty well, don't eat a lot of processed food and stuff too. So understanding where someone's coming from and really being able to look at everything they're eating is going to give you really good understanding of where your person is starting from. Okay, so I'd say like this is the biggest mistake, is not doing this in the beginning. And the other thing is it allows you to the other thing I would dive into is asking your client, first of all, what might be stopping them from making dietary changes, or what has stopped them in the past, if anything. Maybe they haven't even tried. And if they haven't, why? And if they do want to try, why, right? Like this really gets into like your ideal client, understanding their motivation. But if they have tried in the past, or they've wanted to try and they haven't, why? What's stopping them? Is it knowledge? Is it overwhelm? Is it change? Is it, I'll get into some of these things again because I want to talk about them more in one of these other steps, but really like getting into understanding like what might be stopping them. Okay. So the second thing I want to talk about, I feel like doesn't get talked about a lot when it comes to nutrition. and helping people make changes. But I think people can get grouped into two different camps as far as what works for them when it comes to making dietary changes, or really this might be like habit changes in any area of your life. And I feel like, and I think there's research that backs this up. I was trying to look for it, but I couldn't exactly find it. But some people do better as abstainers and not staying away from foods that may be triggering to them. So like sugar is like a good example. Like sometimes certain people, once they start eating sugar, they feel like they can't stop. And other people do better as a moderator, meaning having a little bit of sugar, for example, or sweets or whatever those foods are, or, carbs, kind of figuring out like what are those things that they may be eating that they feel like they have a hard time giving up, or, that may be impacting their health as well negatively. And understanding that there are these two camps of people. So thinking that everyone is like us and what works best for us works best for everyone else is a mistake. Okay, so this is another mistake. Like you want to understand your client and ask them, do you do better if you stay away from foods? Do you find that once you start eating them, maybe you start, binging, or you just want to keep eating more? Or if you abstain and you don't eat any of it, does it become like this big thing and you feel like you stay away from it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I need it, right? And maybe that would lead to a binge or lead to you eating those things in a way that you don't want to be. So I think going through this with your client, understanding them better, and I think that's helpful, okay? So, and figuring out what's gonna work best for them, and it may be some trial and error as you work with them too. Like maybe you try moderating and you're finding it's not working and they're better at abstaining, like just even keeping all the stuff out of their house, right? Like sometimes, like I said, people do good with having like that one little snack. Maybe it's a piece of chocolate or whatever, a chocolate bar that they have in their cabinet, and they have a little bit each day. Whereas other people, they do better just keeping it out of the house, okay, and not having any of it. So understanding that. And the other thing, the next thing I would say, number 3, is also not understanding and diving into what works best for your client when it comes to making change. So some people need to make change really gradually, and other people really like to dive in with both feet and make change quickly. And this is where, if you look at someone's dietary log of what they're eating, a lot of times when I was working with people and we were doing functional medicine with people, I would look at everything that they were eating and we would work incrementally on taking things out of their diet or adding things in, right? So I'd look at where they were and I would be like, okay, does it feel good? Like let's say they were drinking 3 sodas a day or something, depending on who your person, or maybe they're drinking fruit juice or whatever it is, and you're trying to take it out because you're trying to decrease sugar. Maybe you could go down to 2 a day and then 1 a day. You need to figure out your client and what's going to work for them. Whereas other people may be like, give me a list of foods that I can eat and I can't eat. And they want to know, and they want to like just do it all at once, right? And a lot of people might fall somewhere in between. So understanding what works for your client, asking them like, what feels good to you? Does it feel good to, take 1 soda out, 2 sodas out, all the sodas out? Like just understanding and working with them as far as what works for them. Okay, this is really like a big part of coaching, is like understanding that we're all a little different as far as how our brains work and what works for us when it comes to making changes in our life. Okay, so once again, don't assume that all your clients are the same or that all your clients are like you. Figure out what works for your client. Okay, so the next piece is that I would really dive into any challenges or fears that your client has when it comes to making changes with their diet. So for a lot of people, one of the challenges that's going to come up if they have a partner or a family or kids, is how them making dietary changes is going to impact their family. Are they going to get resistance from their family? Is their family not going to want to make changes? This is something that you want to work with your client around. Are they someone who does do emotional eating or binge eating? As long as you feel comfortable working with those things with your clients, those are things you want to understand. You want to know, what are these things? What are the things that have come up for you in the past? What are your habits around food? Do you have any big challenges? Do you have challenges or fears around making these habit changes? And what are those? Okay, so understanding those. And then once you understand those, or maybe understanding then where they have the hardest time, maybe it's going into work and someone's bringing in snack for someone's birthday, right? And they bring in a bunch of cupcakes, and it's really hard for that person to avoid eating those, or they feel maybe people at work are peer pressuring them to eat the cupcakes, right? Why are you having a cupcake? Or someone, you have pizza night and they're why are you eating the pizza? For me, a big one, I haven't drank for over a decade now, alcohol, right? So in the beginning it was really hard because I would go out and I'd go to the bars and whatever, and people are why are you drinking? It was really hard in the beginning. Now, I don't even care, but people don't know how to handle these situations. So can you help your clients come up with a plan to handle these situations when they come up? Okay. So this really goes into being a problem solver and being prepared ahead of time as far as how are they going to handle these situations. Go into depth with your client. Come up with a plan. If they're going into the office and they know there's going to be a snack, someone's bringing in treats for their birthday or for some special occasion, how can you plan ahead? Can they eat ahead of time, right? A lot of times I'll do this if I'm going to someone's house and we're having some sort of dinner. I even did this the other night. We were having pizza. I don't typically do pizza because I don't do dairy or gluten. So I ate ahead of time, and then I brought a salad that I could eat and share with everyone else, right? So you just want to think about how to handle these situations that may be challenging for people and help them come up with a plan ahead of time. If someone's going to a restaurant, can they look at the menu ahead of time? Can you look at the menu with them and help them pick what they're going to eat at the restaurant and how to ask for things? Do they need to ask for it to be prepared a certain way? It's funny because I've been doing all this stuff for so long. For me, it's just, I don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care if I go to the restaurant and I ask for something on the menu and I say, without all these things on it, I don't care. But for a lot of people, this can feel really intimidating and uncomfortable, especially socially. So help your clients figure out how to plan ahead for these situations and how specifically they're going to handle it step by step. And maybe giving them, you don't need to do if you're not someone who's a big cook or, whatever, you don't necessarily need to come up with all the recipes for your clients and provide those. Can you provide them certain blogs where they can go and get a bunch of recipes that are appropriate for them? Can you help them pick out the recipes? Can you help them make a grocery list? Do they need help with these things, or are they someone that can kind of do this on their own? Do you need to help them pick what day they're going to go grocery shopping? Do they need to do meal prepping at a certain day? Really get into the nitty-gritty of helping your client plan ahead so that they can be successful. And a lot of times health coaches are they're worried about not helping their clients enough or not knowing enough. And truthfully, this is where success comes from with your clients, by helping them problem solve and plan ahead so that they can be successful. It's really in these little things. It's not in being a know-it-all who has all this really in-depth nutrition knowledge. That's not where success comes from. It comes from these little things of helping them actually make successful habits, okay? So something good to know, because a lot of times health coaches are afraid of not knowing enough about nutrition, and it really comes down to the basics. Don't eat processed food, eat whole foods, and help them do that. That's where the success comes from, okay? So the last piece, and I touched on this, but is really addressing food is such an emotional issue for so many people, because a lot of us have been raised around food being like celebration, and because of processed food and the food that so many people are raised eating, especially before, like now I feel like there's more knowledge around like healthy food versus processed food and, you know, all this stuff. But I mean, when I was little, like we didn't really know much about that. My family didn't. Like, I feel like it just wasn't really part of our knowledge and our life. And so we didn't really think about that stuff. And so a lot of us have emotional attachments to food, and we use it for emotional reasons. So there's a lot of emotional eating. There may be binge eating. There may be, eating disordered behavior. I think like understanding this, knowing what's in your wheelhouse, what you feel comfortable helping people with, referring out to a therapist, if it's something that feels beyond what you feel comfortable helping people with, but making sure that you understand this and you build awareness around this with your clients. Okay, can they become aware of these habits or these patterns, how they may be using food in a way other than just nourishment? Are they using it for emotional reasons? When does this happen for them? Does it happen if they get too hungry? Does it happen if they have a fight with their partner? Like, just having awareness, and once again, coming up with a game plan. How can they help prevent this? Can they make sure that they're not getting too hungry and they're eating regularly? Can they have another way to deal with uncomfortable emotions? Once again, help them prepare, help them become aware, because this really makes a huge difference, okay? So I'd love to hear from you. Do you find these things helpful? Are these things you're already doing with your clients? Which of these are things you may not be doing? Do you have any additional questions for me when it comes to how to handle making dietary recommendations with your clients? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to help out in any way I can, because I think this dietary changes makes a huge difference no matter what you're helping people with. Even if you're helping people with like relationship issues, or you're helping people with something that isn't totally like health related, I always think dietary stuff comes into play, right? Like what you eat makes such a huge difference in our minds, right? Like if you're eating tons of sugar and on this like huge roller coaster, like you're on an emotional roller coaster. If you're eating too late at night, that makes a huge difference in your sleep, which makes a difference in your emotions and your ability to think and, concentrate and be creative and all those things, right? So our dietary choices makes a huge difference in all areas of our life. So this is something I would address with my clients no matter what I'm working with them on or what I'm helping them with. Okay. So once again, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I have a free video guide for you where I go through the 5 steps to build your health coaching business. And this is introvert style. This is a brand new training I made, and it's especially for introverts. Also a little bit of a focus on people who may have a health and wellness background and want to start a health coaching business. But really this can help anyone who's a health coach, who is an introvert and looking to build a business in a way that feels good to you. So I'll link that below this video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.